Hello, I'm Jessica Amir for the Finance News Network. Today I'm with BetaShares Business Development Manager, Blair Modica. Hi Blair, and thanks for coming.
Hi Jessica, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for coming to Melbourne.
Thanks for having us.
First up, just a quick introduction to BetaShares.
Yeah, look, we're Australia's only founded and managed ETF provider. So we specialise in exchange-traded funds, and we've got about 50 different funds in the marketplace at the moment. We're managing about $6 billion in terms of funds under management. We also have Australia's largest dedicated team to financial advice and retail clients.
Before we talk about your ETFs in a little more detail, maybe you can give us an introduction for those who aren't familiar with the term.
Look, an exchange-traded fund, or an ETF as we like to call it, is much like a managed fund, except that it's bought and sold on the stock exchange. Now, there's also some other added benefits like costs. We like to think of ETF as the cheapest entry point into the market. They're also subject to the same rules and regulations as stipulated by ASIC as a managed fund. And they're really easy to access. You can jump online, use your online broker or platform to buy the product, and it's basically a one-click transaction.
And so zooming out, looking at the industry as a whole, how big is the market here in Australia and overseas?
Yeah, well, start with overseas first. It's a $5 trillion industry overseas, and Australia accounts for about $40 billion worth of that. So it's interesting. I think ETFs came around in 1990 globally, but then came about in Australia in 2001. So they're really here to stay. And the long-term growth's really exciting. Worldwide, I think we're growing at 18%, and in Australia, it's actually 41% annually. So we're seeing a large uptick in ETFs, and it's certainly exciting to be a part of.
Thanks, Blair. Now let's talk about your ETFs. What do your ETFs cover?
We cover a wide range of different asset classes. So we really like to pride ourselves on the fact we can offer anyone any type of market exposure. Whether it's Australian equities, international equities, cash and fixed income, currency or commodity type trades, we'll be able to provide something.
So how are you finding that ETFs are being used?
We see ETFs used in a lot of different ways. One popular way is a core satellite approach, so using a broad-based type equity exposure, say an A200, to form that core part of your portfolio, and then creating spokes or satellites that might be more tactical in nature. So for example, they might want to take a currency play on the US dollar or the euro, or they might want to take a thematic type approach, whether it's through global banks or global pharmaceuticals.
And so where are you finding investors move with their feet and invest the most?
In times of insecurity, we've seen a lot of interest in fixed income and cash. So whether that's through a floating rate note bond fund or AAA cash, that's been of some interest. But also technology's been really, really popular over the past year. So a trade like NASDAQ, where you're getting the top 100 stocks on the NASDAQ index, or something like a robotics index, RBTZ is the one we provide, and that gives you exposure to robotics and AI throughout the world. For example, a company like Nvidia, which is an artificial intelligence company that's doing some really interesting things in the United States.
So Blair, one of the major selling points for an ETF is its low cost. So how do they really compare when stacked up to other funds? And what does this mean for investors long term?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think we see ETFs compared a lot to managed funds, and a really good example is our A200 investment. At 7 basis points, it's the lowest cost Australian exposure in the world. And when you compare that to a managed fund that's, say, 1.5 to 2%, quickly you can see the difference in price. Now, this has a material gain to the investor at the end of the day in terms of price.
And lastly, Blair, what's your final message for today?
Jessica, we feel that ETFs have a really important part to play in a well-diversified portfolio. Customers really find that cost is an important consideration, and ETFs are certainly able to provide that. BetaShares looks forward to being able to provide cost-effective solutions into the future.
Wonderful. Blair Modica, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.